Hello and welcome to the Surgical Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Haidar Al-Hakim, the Third Eye Doctor. Pull up a chair and get ready for some candid and uncompromising discussion with experts, innovators, agitators, and influential people from every corner of health and well-being. From inside the hospital to at home in the kitchen, we're leaving no stone unturned in our quest to uncover the secrets of healthier, happier, more successful, and less stressful lives. Thank you so much for joining us, and without further ado, let's meet this episode's guest. Hello, Aman. How are you doing?
I'm good, Haidar. Good to speak to you. Thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for coming on. I know you're a super busy guy, and you do probably 1,000,001 things in the morning. So what have you done this morning so far? And it's only 8:30 in the morning.
Gosh, what have I done this morning? I was up at 5 as usual, did a bit of meditation, came into the office, recorded a video, and now the best part of the morning is having a chat with you.
Wow.
So I've done a little bit.
So how long have you been doing that for?
A while actually. I find mornings fascinating. I find them super productive. If I do the same 2 hours in the morning and do the same 2 hours in the evening, I'll get 50% less done in the evening. I know that's just me, and I've worked that out. So probably I'd say for around 3-4 years, I've been an early riser, and just get on with it. Before the world wakes up, get ahead of the game.
And do you think your passion changed 3 or 4 years ago?
I don't think so. I think I had the passion probably for med ed, which is what my whole life is around at the moment. I've had that for about 6 or 7 years, but it took me, I'd say, 3 or 4 years to work out how I can push that passion to its max. So working out routines, working out what time of the day works for me. That took a few years, and I think the last 3 or 4 years I've got to a stage where I know my game and I know what works for me.
I know you're sort of really, really passionate about the why in life. So what was the why in what you're doing? Well,
initially for me, I had a really good trainer when I was a GP registrar myself. And I looked up to him and I was like, yeah, this is amazing. The way you deal with your day-to-day work, but then you give time to me, you soak in all of my insecurities, my queries, my questions, not an inch of annoyance, even though there's probably 100 things going on in his own life. That inspired me, and I thought, wow, these are such an impact on me, and it was through him that I thought, well, I want to do this. I want to be a trainer. I want to help at that point that one other registrar who's going to be under me, apprenticeship role type of thing. So I started looking at med ed and thinking, how can I get into this side of things? Because I love the idea of helping someone through what are difficult times, training, exams, etc. So we set up a few training courses with a colleague at the time and thought this would look good for my CV if I want to be a trainer one day. And the why came from there. I remember it was the very first course we did, and I just thought, this is amazing. Like we're helping people on things that we have interest in as well, and everything kind of stemmed from there. And the why got bigger and bigger, and the aims of what we want to do got bigger and bigger, but it's still there. Luckily, it's still firing away.
Mm-hmm. Was it people's reactions, or was there a particular case that really, really stand out to you?
Not really. There's not one that I could say, wow, that's the one. Initially, there were short-term reactions. You'd help someone. I never understood that. Thank you. That's so great. And I finally get it now. There's a short-term things, but they kind of start to roll and get bigger and bigger. And then you get people who haven't passed an exam maybe 2-3 times, and they come back to you and say, you know what, that little bit of thing you did helped me get through, and it's just it's helped me in my life. My life was in trouble, etc., whatever. And those little things all build up. So it wasn't one thing, but I think it's the ball that keeps getting bigger and bigger. And when you're on that roll, you want it to keep going.
So it's these small kind of wins that, if you do it on a consistent basis, turns into something that literally becomes like a machine and sort of become automatic.
Look, I think so. I think it's got to a point where a lot of what we do is automatic, but the why keeps it. We're adapting it all the time, and yes, we have big goals and we have big aspirations and we have bigger pictures, but it's the little things, right, that always keep it moving and keep it rolling and stop it getting stagnant um, and keep me getting up early, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need something to jump out when that alarm goes.
So what's the oil that keeps it moving?
That's the passion, I guess, because
Yeah, yeah,
you can have a why.
yeah,
You can want to do a lot of things for a lot of reasons, but if you don't have that inner core, I love this,
yeah,
100% love this, 24/7 love this, then even the why I think sometimes is not big enough.
yeah. So you need
Um,
both essentially, don't you? So
I
the
think so.
why and the passion.
I think so. You can have a passion for something, but it won't get you anywhere if you just have a passion. You like doing it,
Mm.
but if you have a why, I think you get drawn. Your passion draws you up and up. I think personally,
Mm.
that's how I found my journey, I guess, through all of this so far.
Mm. And in terms of an individual that sort of epitomizes immense amount of passion, is there any particular person like that? Apart from the tutor that helps you out.
To be honest, I mean, I've seen a lot of people in our field doing a lot of good things, and I respect a lot of them, and I pick up bits from all of them, and I admire them for different traits and aspects. But I guess I've always tried to be
Mm.
my own person, and I'm not trying to emulate
Mm.
people, so no, apart from that initial spark that I got from my trainer,
Mm.
I've looked up to people in individual aspects, but I want to do my own thing, and
Mm.
therefore I kind of haven't fallen down that trap of trying to emulate someone too much,
Yeah, yeah.
or
I
have.
mean, you sort of see their good qualities mostly, and then eventually you find that they've got bad qualities, and you sort of move on to the next one.
Oh, look, and I think that's why it's important that you don't have one person that you look up to.
Yeah,
You have a variety of inputs because
yeah,
you then have the benefit of being able to pick and choose
yeah.
what traits you want to go with,
And
and
there's nothing wrong with that, picking and choosing,
yeah,
certain ways and individuals and ethoses and ideologies and ways of thinking. I think it's a successful mindset, to be honest. Because we're all different, aren't we?
yeah, yeah, and also what works for someone doesn't work for somebody else. There's no point just blindly emulating.
Mm.
And there's a lot of it's trial and error, isn't it? Like
Mm.
what you try something, you realize, okay, that's not kind of down my path,
Mm.
and then you turn back. I mean, and otherwise, how are you going to grow, right? If you
Mm.
just think, well, this is my game and this is it, and you don't try anything else,
Mm.
I think you become stagnant, you get bored, and that will come across in the people that you're trying to help in the first place.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So yeah, I mean, constant change, constant adapting, but knowing your own ultimate path, I think, is key.
Mm, mm. And doctors' exams are not easy. They are difficult. And do you think there's something behind that, or is it's just a big hurdle that people have to jump over?
Look, I think a lot of people find exams very straightforward, and
Mm.
they're just that type of person. But there are a couple of reasons why I think people struggle with exams. I think we're not used to we're machines as medics. We're not used to
Mm.
messing things up. We're not used to not
Mm.
passing an exam. So the pressure that comes from that, I think, is bigger than sometimes the exam itself.
Mm.
Like, you've got an exam in 3 months' time. You've got your plans out. You know what you need to cover. You already know it anyway, to be honest.
Mm.
But but it's the other stuff that what's my training going to think? I've got this, what's my family going to think? And what am I going to think? Like, how am I going to deal with that? It's that starts
Mm.
weighing you down months before the actual event, months before the result. And a lot of what we do is, yes, we teach medicine. Okay, we teach, what to do and what the guidelines are. We teach how to deal with certain types of presentation. But a lot of what we do is confidence. A lot of what we do is mindset. A lot of it's about, look, you know what you're doing, and we're almost giving you license to go and do it. Um, and that's a huge part of what I do. And that sometimes is where the bigger rewards come. I can teach someone about guidelines and they think, that's great, thank you, I never understood that. But if I could teach someone to walk into an exam and think, I'm good enough to pass and I've got that right in my head now, that's bigger for me than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we are our own worst enemy.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I am too, and so is everybody else. And
Yeah,
it's just, those thoughts and those doubts are natural. They're human beings, whether they're
yeah,
medical or not.
yeah.
Um, but how you adapt to that, I think, makes a big difference.
Could you give us sort of a short way because we've got a short podcast,
Yeah.
about improving your mindset when it comes to exams and improving your confidence when it comes to exams.
So I talk a lot about perspective. Say someone has failed an exam, or someone is pretty sure they're going to fail an exam. You just put it into context. You draw a line on the page. This is you age 0. This is you age 90. We're here at this point. This period of your life is like a blip. It's a minor blip. In 5 years' time, you're going to look back at this and forget it. You're not even going to remember it. Now it seems huge. Now the fear is huge. The failure is a massive thing. The worry about failing is a massive thing. But it's a tiny blip. And that's just lateral. That's just like from 0 to 100. We haven't even talked about the width yet.
Wow.
You've got the perspective of width. You've got, okay, that's a blip. But the other way, you've got family, you've got interests, you've got hobbies, you've got other issues going on. So it's a blip both ways in terms of time and in terms of width of your life. And when you go through that, I think people think, okay, fair enough. It's not the biggest thing in the world. And then when you take that pressure off, I think other things just happen naturally. The work that you're doing becomes more efficient. The time that you're putting in, you're actually picking up more because you're worrying less. And I think it makes a huge difference. Perspective is the small, short answer to that, I think.
Wow. And it helps with both mindset and confidence. That's amazing.
Yeah, in a big way.
And, confidence is I think, in medical school, is not something that they really concentrate on. Back in my day, I don't know what's happening currently at the moment. Do you do any work in medical schools?
Not in undergrad stuff, no.
Yeah. And do you think you see that more of an issue now that you're seeing more and more doctors coming through the system, or is it pretty much kind of a memory thing?
I think confidence is never really a big part of education, full stop, from my own experience anyway. It may
but
be
you think it should be.
I think it should be.
Yeah,
but then how do you even go about? I mean, yes, you can talk about little things like perspective and things, but confidence is a very fluid thing, isn't it? And one day you'll wake up confident, the next day you'll wake up completely in shatters. It's one of those things that's hard to teach, I think. But I think the way that the world is going now, obviously with social media and the fact that everyone is in everybody's face and everyone knows what everyone's doing, I think that has an impact on confidence, and it makes it less, because you're constantly almost in view. And I think you may have your own insecurities, but then you're added to what other people are going to think, because they can see what's happening. If I fail, everyone's going to know about it. It's that, I think, hammers you in terms of confidence as well. Whereas perhaps that kind of stuff wasn't around before in such a big way. So social media, we use a lot for its benefits, and we try and teach a lot through this amazing tool of social media that's out there these days. But I think there's obviously drawbacks as well.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is a difficult topic, and it surprises me when I see people doing workshops and courses and things like that on boosting your confidence, and it's not an easy one.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one to teach, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed from a young age.
Yeah.
But then it depends on society, depends on culture, parenting, environment.
And it's fluid. Like, you're going to go through periods of your life where you're not confident.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through periods where you're super confident.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend pretty much on what is in front of you right now.
Yeah.
If it's an exam in front of you, if it's something else in front of you, you're going to have your differences, aren't you? So yes, people can turn around and say, here's 3 tips to increase your confidence. But really, what does that mean? I mean, it doesn't really help in the big picture, really, I don't think. It comes from within, and I think experience, I think knowing your why, knowing where you're going, having perspective, all these things interlock, I think, to influence this kind of thing, because it's huge. It's a massive thing.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day when I was sort of a lot younger, we used to look towards people who had great amount of confidence, but they tended to be dead. And, sort of mythology or mythologized individuals. And so look back thinking, really? I don't think they were that confident, actually.
Yeah, and that's just perspective, isn't it? And not perspective, perception.
Yeah.
You can give off a perception very easily of certain things, but it doesn't mean what's going on inside is the same.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you can tell, even though they look confident.
Yeah.
You think, no, there's they're sort of, they're putting it on kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can tell inside, there is that, sort of third eye or sort of third sense, I think, nah, it's all bullshit, mate.
Yeah.
Nothing much going on. But I mean, I did that in medical school anyway to get through exams. You got to look the part,
Yes.
percuss
Yes.
and all that kind of
It's a
stuff.
fascinating topic, and I don't think it'll ever really fully be understood.
Yeah.
But,
And I mean, the same with mindset. Mindset is such a big thing. I
yeah.
guess we all develop our own way of dealing with our own mindset, and then whether other people resonate with that or not, that's that sort of that's how your success is defined. Success,
Yes.
in inverted commas.
Yeah. Mindset's massive. Mindset's massive, and certainly in the med ed game, mindset's a huge thing. And like I said, a lot of our efforts, yes, are to teach people fact and help them in certain ways, but a lot of it is mindset and helping them feel that I'm in the right zone, and I'm good to go with this exam, whether it's tomorrow or next week. It's just getting that mind right, because your mind is going to either help you in a massive way, or it's going to hinder you in a big way as well. And just not trying to, as you say, set someone's mind. Yeah, I know you don't believe in that term as such, but just showing them how important it is and how you need to understand what your mind is saying and adapt accordingly, rather than just hope that on the day I'll feel good. Like it doesn't just work like that, I don't think. But giving people confidence, showing them, look, this is, what you're doing, giving a lot of the positive reinforcement to show, well, actually you're good enough, and go a long way to helping them find their own mindset, because you can't give it to them.
Yeah, exactly. You can't give it to them. It's literally giving them that permission that they can overcome the obstacles.
Yeah.
Because so many other people have overcome it.
Yeah.
And giving them that sort of boost of energy or life force, or sort of resonance or connection.
And also taking away the fear of not achieving it, because that has a huge influence.
Yeah, I mean, failure is such a massive thing, and as you know, I mean, I know failure is probably the best lesson anyone can ever learn in any situation.
Yeah.
And we've heard it so many times, until it happens to you. Until you fuck things up, you won't really understand. How things work essentially. But we are in a profession where we're not allowed to make mistakes. And it is very difficult.
And that's the fear of it, and then when you have fear of it, it stops you making your time productive, and then before you know, you get even more fearful because you haven't covered what you tried to cover in the last hour of work, but you've been so worried and you got nothing done, and that adds to it, and it's just a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you get out of that cycle if you're in that sort of particular situation?
I'll always fall back to putting things in perspective. Always. Both ways again, longitudinally and width as well, because I don't think there's anything more powerful than that. You just to realize on the scale of things how tiny this segment of your life is, how tiny it is, and how in 3 years it's just going to be nothing. It's going to be nothing. That I think goes a long way to reducing fear in any situation. I use it myself. Like if I have something that I'm particularly worried about, anxious about, that's what I'll do. I will zone out and I'll go into the perspective. That's why I meditate, because it's just, that's the way I cope with it. I think there's many ways of doing it. But perspective is powerful, I think.
And you've got a lot of stuff going on outside your work. What is it that really sort of puts things in perspective for you?
Oh, look, there's the usual stuff, family in a big way, family in a big way. And one of the things about being in the entrepreneur game and running a business is that you could easily get engulfed by the business and not have time for those other things. And I think it's the family side of things that grounds me, and being my wife, daughter, these things make a huge difference. They give you the perspective. Having regular slots of time out, I think it's so easy just to get engulfed with the whole non-stopness of what you can do when you're in your own game. That obviously puts perspective in a big way. The usual things, but I think done enough.
Yeah, regularly, just to sort of keep things ticking along, and just to make sure you don't go into that cycle of craziness. I mean, I sweat like hell, and that's when I make the best decisions, because the mind is quiet,
Yep.
And the heart is well, it's pumping, but the other heart is alive, so to speak.
Yeah. But that's my morning thing, you see. Like in the morning,
Yeah,
I think clearest. That's
yeah,
why I'm so driven on early hours of the day as opposed to the late evening. The late evening ones, I don't try and do any work in that. I don't think too heavily in the later hours of the day. That's just the time to relax. But the early morning, when my mind is quietest, I know that, and that's where I get the most done and the most decisions made, and I think that the most progress happens.
and I was going to talk about memory because I don't have a good memory, you see.
Yeah.
I've got one of these memories that sort of creeps up on you about something really obscure,
Yeah.
27 years ago, that sort of comes out. But when I want to do something now and right here, it's like, ooh, okay, which is a bit crap for a podcast host, because you're trying to ask a question and then you
What was it I was supposed to ask?
But it creates that tension and that sort of intrigue. I mean, in terms of improving memory, is it similar to sort of mindset and perspective and confidence, in the sense that you give them a certain perspective, so to speak, and then that will improve their memory?
I think memory is something that people have got to work out how they firstly learn things best. Just because your friend learns something a certain way doesn't mean that's going to work for you. And then suddenly you feel that my memory is rubbish because you're trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do in MedEd, and one of the reasons that we do so much across different streams and social media, is that we're trying to teach the same thing in 5 different formats. So someone who's on the other side is going to find the format that resonates with them, and therefore they're going to learn it much better, and they're going to feel their memory is getting better. So we might put the same teaching out on a text post, on an image post, on a video, on like a 3-second snap. And somewhere someone is going to find that useful for them and learn it and remember it in 3 months' time when they need it. Whereas if I'm putting everything out on one content saying, look, this is what I do, I make videos, so you need to learn this way, then people aren't going to resonate with that. I think memory's got a lot to do with understanding your own game. And what we're trying to do is put everything out in a variety of different forms so that people can pick the one that resonates with them, so that their memory, in theory, gets better. Whereas I don't think that's actually happening. I think they're just resonating with something that works for them. So they retain it better because they understand it better, it resonates with them. That's how I think memory is. I don't know if you can improve memory. I think you just got to find the way that you remember things better. And our job is to adapt and not try and say, this is how you should learn things, this is how you should remember, this is the best way to remember. Find your own way. We'll give you every way possible.
I mean, I remember reading tons of books on how to improve memory, and it was interesting, because you sort of find what works with you, what doesn't work with you, and it's a matter of being proactive about it rather than being passive. So
and then knowing when you found your game and then going in hard on it. I think people spend ages reading books and trying to find all these things that are the right way to do something, but they almost kind of then find something that's good, but then want to find something better and then move away, and then what's the value of just reading for the sake of it, right? But when you find your thing, go with it. Like that's I think really important as well. Why do we read loads of books? Because we're trying to find answers to questions, but sometimes we read the answers for us and we just walk past because we're looking for the next answer or someone else's version of that question and answer. So yeah, I mean, people can read a lot about stuff, but actually there's a lot of answers we've already read them. We already know what's right for us, but we just don't go all in, I think.
Yeah, and just concentrate on the strengths that we have.
Yeah,
rather than or we've got to improve the weaknesses, which is really difficult, and I used to hate that. That's what I sort of hated about medical school, because there's such a broad, wide-ranging sort of topics and ways of learning, and we just had to do it. I mean, is general practice sort of quite wide-ranging as well, and there's so much things that you've got to.
I mean, general practice is just an
huge,
open book that's just getting bigger with more pages every day. Like that. That's how I see general practice as in medicine, right? And I guess when I was clinically working as a GP, trying to stay up to date was daunting. The feeling was daunting. And sometimes you've got to realize that, look, we're not superhumans and we can never know everything, but we need to be sensible about what we're doing, know a few key things, and know how to adapt in situations where we may not know exactly what the right answer is. And similarly with exams, like, again, we tell people, look, you're allowed to make mistakes. Like, you don't have to know everything pinpoint, because that puts pressure on you straight away. You'll walk into that exam, you'll make 5-10 silly errors. Just accept it. The key is to know that that's going to happen, so it doesn't hit you when it happens. If you go in kind of thinking, I hope that everything goes smoothly, and I hope I know everything that comes up, and I hope that I do perfectly well, when that first mistake happens, it's going to hit you really hard. And you think, I knew it was going to happen, I knew something was going to come and I didn't know, and then the ball starts rolling and you're in that vicious cycle. Accept the fact that you're not going to know certain things. Accept that you're going to make mistakes. That's why the pass mark's not 100%. You're allowed to make a few errors. And I think that's the same in day-to-day life, accepting that you can never know everything, and that makes it, I think, a lot easier to walk through.
On that wonderful positive note, how can we accept failure within our sort of very traditional professions? Is it us or is it the system? Or is it both?
Why find blame in any of them? Just accept that it's part of it.
Yeah.
I think anything is easier to deal with when you accept it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you hope it's just not going to happen and then it happens, bang, it hits my luck.
You deal with it anyway when it happens.
Yeah.
Whether you're prepared or not.
Yeah, and look, you can never really be prepared, because sometimes things happen that you're just never going to be prepared for. But if you kind of accept that I'm not superhuman, I'm allowed to make mistakes, and it's going to happen. And I'm talking more from the med ed game here in exams. Yeah. Again, it comes down to perspective that, okay, I'll make a mistake. A, it's not going to end my exam. And B, even if it ends my exam, it's not the last exam I'm ever going to take. Yeah. And C, if it's the last exam I'm ever going to take, then there's still other things in life. Like, it's just, there's always a layer below, right? And that helps people deal with failure. Expecting it's important.
And arguably you can take that into life as well,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not the end of the day. Even if it is the end of the day for you, it's still not the end of the day.
Perspective is so powerful, and obviously you can use it in a small scale and you can use it in a big scale as well. But I find it powerful. And I think when people resonate with that and they see the bigger, for example, on results day, if there's an exam and it's a results day, I know my friends are going to be pinging all night long.
Yeah.
Half the pings are going to be, I passed, it's amazing, the best feeling, thank you so much. And then you're going to get the others who are, I'm really struggling, I don't know what to do, I put so much hard work in. And the line we always come back to on the ones that have not got through is the perspective line. Always a perspective line, because it works, and the next day they just feel a little bit different, and it might take them a week to feel different or a month to feel different, but they're going to come out of it. And if someone's coming up to an exam and saying, I'm going to fail, then we just give them the allowance to do so, the allowance to make a mistake. You're going to make mistakes, accept it, and it makes them feel a bit better. And it gets them back on the track, and all these things. I think, yes, as a medical educator, it's important to teach them content, and we do a lot of that, because that's what people are going to find you for in the first place. How good is your content? But then it goes deeper than that. When you build a relationship with someone, and it may not be a face-to-face relationship, it may just be across social media. They see you every day, watch your videos. Eventually they'll contact you when their time comes, and that's when you can help them in different ways. So that's why I find med ed fascinating. It's not just I sit there and I give a talk about something and that's it. It's so much more than that. And the more I give into it, the more you get out of it, I think. Like with anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating. We can talk for hours about perspective, about mindset, about growth mindset, adaptability, education, and passion. But we'll call it quits. How can people get hold of you? I know you're a sort of a social media fiend.
Oh, we're all over. I mean, Dr. Aman Arora Facebook group is where we do a lot of our med ed. We do loads of stuff on Instagram, Dr._Aman_Arora. Twitter, we're there. SoundCloud, we're there. LinkedIn, we're there. YouTube, obviously, our main video channel, Aman Arora. Loads of different places. Website, AroraMedicalEducation.co.uk. Everything is there.
And what's your final message to the medical students who are going through and listening to this podcast?
Med students, doctors all over the place, whatever exam you're doing, perspective is huge. Whatever is in front of you, if it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's a tiny blip in your career, and you're going to have forgotten about it in a couple of years' time. So just max it out now, do the best you can, but it's not the final chapter.
Thank you, Aman.
Thanks, Haidar. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to this installment of the Surgical Spirit podcast. For all the latest in the world of surgical spirit, don't forget to follow on Twitter at The Third Eye Doc and catch me on Facebook at the page The Third Eye Doctor. You can visit the website at www.thethirdeeyedoctor.co.uk for more information on the work that I do. And please send us feedback and questions and suggestions for the podcast. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. I've been Dr. Haidar Al-Hakim, and I'll see you next time.